everybody, welcome back to the Darwin's Room channel. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate your support as always. Que lo que mi gente en el Caribe. Today we're going to be talking about Together. This is directed by Michael Shanks and it stars Dave Franco and Alison Brie. The story follows a couple that moves away from the city to a small town where they come across a mysterious cave that turns their reality into a nightmare as their lives and relationship are put to the test. This was a movie that I saw the trailer for it, like many other people did, and it looked completely insane and terrifying and unsettling. And so I was immediately excited to go and see this and check it out. And I have to say, I was really impressed with how thoughtful the story felt, how well put together and constructed it was. It felt very intentionally portrayed and put together. So I was very impressed with that, and I really appreciated how they handled not just the fear factor element of the story or of the film, but the themes and the messages behind it that are further propelling the quality of it forward. So I was very touched by that. The themes that it's really focusing on is the toxicity of codependency, but also the importance of finding happiness in one's own self rather than trying to find happiness in someone else or because of someone else. And so I found that to be a really potent message, and I think it's always going to be a relevant message. I think a lot of people struggle with codependency, and so the way that they tackle it and maneuver it and handle that message with the parameters of the story, they do a great job. And then when they tie in the horror aspects of the film, it really just elevates it that much more because it is, as I mentioned earlier, unsettling. I was like cringing at a few points of the film, and obviously you're meant to, but it was incredibly well done, particularly because they did a fantastic job pairing practical effects with digital effects and merging them together to create an image that feels so horrifically real and makes it that much more terrifying. And there's also just really scary imagery. In particular, there's a couple of flashback types of sequences related to Dave Franco's backstory for his character. And the imagery is just really scary looking and it's unsettling. And they pair that with the excellent visuals, but also the sound design. It's very eerie and it keeps you on the edge of your seat in a manner where you don't feel safe, and it feels very uncomfortable. This is not a comfortable movie to watch. It's very much quite the opposite. And of course, that's what they were going for, and they succeeded in that, and they did a magnificent job in accomplishing that mission. And as I mentioned with the cinematography, it is beautiful, and I think that it's honestly very strongly assisted by the landscape. This movie, the backdrop, the forest type of area that they live in, it's stunning, it's beautiful. The color grading that they used for the filming of this movie, I just loved the look of it, and I loved each sequence and how they each blend into one another as the story progresses. And I was just completely taken aback by it visually and thematically. It was just extremely well done. Now, in terms of negatives, this movie isn't perfect. I had really just two little issues that I noticed with it. Other than that, I had such a great time with this movie. But the first one is that while most of the performances are fantastic and very gritty and involved and engaging and believable, I did notice that at times there was a little bit of inconsistency where Dave Franco's performance, at times, not all the time, I think he's a fantastic actor, but I think there were certain moments where he felt just a little bit stale or at least inconsistent when in comparison to Alison Brie, who he's performing alongside. And they both do an incredible job together. Obviously, they're married in real life, so they're going to work well together. You're going to expect that. Really, I just noticed a little bit of inconsistency in the performances, but for the most part, it's absolutely solid. It looks fantastic. They do a great job. The only other issue that I had with this movie is that I think they had a hard time with the pacing. There were several moments where as the plot is moving along, the pacing feels like it's trying to catch up with the story. And so it feels a little bit slower than it should at times, especially because it'll be right after a really terrifying horror sequence, and then it gets into this mode where it's not keeping up with that same momentum. But other than that, I would still say it is well worth sitting through the entire film, watching the whole film. It is unsettling, it's scary, it's really thoughtful, and it has really strong and positive messages. But some people might not like the ending. I personally really enjoyed the ending. Not that I was satisfied by it. I think it was meant to be kind of a shock factor for how the film concludes, and I really enjoyed it. I think that this movie is going to be talked about a lot. This is probably going to be one of the better horror films that we've gotten this year in terms of thematic horror, not necessarily blockbuster horror. It's a very different type of film, but I absolutely loved it. I think it's a great time at the theater, especially go watch it with friends if you're able to. I am going to give Together a 4 out of 5 stars. This is well worth your time. If you like Dave Franco and if you like Alison Brie, they are great in this movie. Aside from a little bit of inconsistency, they're fantastic. They work well together. I'd be curious to see how they are as a couple outside of this film, because apparently they mentioned that this film was very personal to them, and yeah, it was just a very personal story. So I'm really curious about that. So anyways, they did great in the movie. Definitely, I'm gonna recommend it, that you should go and check it out. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the channel. God bless you guys, and I'll talk to you soon with another review. Take care.